Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has publicly declared that his government's goal is the complete disappearance of the Iranian regime from the world, a statement that marks a significant shift from deterrence to explicit regime change rhetoric. According to the Telegram channel Bint Jbeil News, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated, and we quote directly, that the end of the Iranian regime means its disappearance from the world, adding that Israel would help achieve this goal and that Iran would no longer threaten our existence. This is a single-source Telegram report, so the precise context and venue of the statement remain unverified. However, if accurately reported, this represents a substantial escalation in declared Israeli strategic intent, moving well beyond deterrence language and into explicit regime change framing. Open-source analysts will note this goes further than previous Israeli public statements, which typically focused on neutralizing Iran's nuclear program or its regional proxies, rather than the regime itself. AFP has photographed and confirmed a fourth round of negotiations between Lebanon and Israel, according to Bint Jbeil News. No agenda details or outcomes from this round have been reported in the available sourcing. The fact that talks have now progressed through 4 rounds is itself a meaningful data point. It suggests both sides retain a functional diplomatic channel, likely focused on border demarcation and ceasefire implementation arrangements. Open-source analysts assess that the continuation of structured talks reduces the near-term risk of renewed large-scale military exchange along the Lebanese-Israeli frontier, though the gap between the parties on withdrawal timelines and southern Lebanon governance remains unresolved based on prior reporting. India has successfully conducted a test firing of its indigenously developed RudraM-II air-to-surface anti-radiation missile, corroborated by 2 separate Telegram sources, Geopolitics and Intel 24/7. Anti-radiation missiles are specifically designed to home in on radar emissions, making them a key tool for what military planners call suppression of enemy air defenses, or SEAD. Intel 24/7 notes that further details are awaited. The test follows a period of elevated India-Pakistan military tensions in 2026. Dual-source corroboration increases confidence in the report, though official Indian government confirmation has not been cited in the available sourcing. The RudraM-II's successful test meaningfully advances India's indigenous precision strike capability. According to Telegram channel Intel Slava, Russia's Africa Corps, the successor organization to the Wagner Group, used a Lancet loitering munition to strike a vehicle belonging to Jainism, which stands for Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin, an al-qaeda-affiliated militant group operating in the Sahel region of West Africa. No casualty figures were provided in the sourcing. The operational significance here lies in the platform. The Lancet is the same precision loitering munition Russia has deployed extensively in Ukraine. Its documented use in Mali indicates a geographic transfer of this weapons system to the African theater, extending the operational footprint of Russian advanced drone warfare beyond the European conflict zone. A report from the outlet called The Shot, a source with a known pro-Russian editorial bias, alleges that explosives manufactured at 2 Australian government-owned plants, located in Benalla, Victoria, and Mulwala, New South Wales, and operated under lease by French defense company Thales, ultimately reach Israeli munitions stockpiles. The alleged route runs either through the United States, where the materials are incorporated into American munitions later sent to Israel, or through Singapore via intermediaries. An anonymous source described as being inside the global arms supply chain is cited. The Mulwala plant reportedly increased staffing by approximately 10% following October 2023. This report is single-sourced from an outlet with documented editorial bias, and the allegations remain unverified. It should be treated with significant caution pending independent corroboration. The German government has announced that Indian nationals will no longer require a transit visa for layovers at German airports, according to Intel 24/7. This is a relatively low-stakes administrative and diplomatic change, but it carries a modest positive signal for the broader European Union-India relationship. It may reflect ongoing efforts to ease mobility for Indian professionals and travelers, or a response to diplomatic requests from New Delhi. No security implications are apparent from the available sourcing. Strategic assessment. First, the economic picture. Netanyahu's regime elimination rhetoric, if it reflects actual operational planning, carries meaningful oil market risk. The Persian Gulf energy corridor remains exposed to any Israeli-Iranian escalation, and energy traders will likely price in a modest risk premium on Brent crude if this language hardens into military signaling. Iran's sanctioned oil exports, particularly flows to China, could also face new pressure if Israel pursues covert or kinetic action against Iranian infrastructure. No central bank or currency data is present in the sourcing, but Gulf sovereign wealth funds and regional bond markets will be watching this language closely. On political stability, Netanyahu's public framing of regime elimination, reported via telegram and unverified in precise context, nevertheless serves a domestic political function in Israel, reinforcing a maximalist posture ahead of any potential ceasefire or diplomatic negotiation over Gaza and Lebanon. In Iran, such statements historically consolidate hardline factions and reduce the political space for moderate voices. The Lebanon-Israel fourth negotiating round, confirmed by AFP, suggests some actors in the region still prefer diplomatic channels, creating a tension between the escalatory rhetoric from Jerusalem and the concurrent diplomatic process on the northern border, and the wider geopolitical consequences. The convergence of Netanyahu's regime change declaration, continued Lebanon-Israel negotiations, India's C-80 missile test, and Russia's Lancet deployment to Mali collectively illustrate three parallel deterrence competitions: Middle Eastern, South Asian, and Sahelian, each advancing independently. Open-source analysts assess that the most critical variable to watch in the next 7 to 14 days is whether Israeli rhetoric toward Iran is accompanied by observable military posturing, Air Force repositioning, naval movements in the Eastern Mediterranean, or intelligence community leaks about timelines. The Lebanon talks entering a fourth round provide a fragile counter-signal. Simultaneously, India's RudraM-II test will be closely tracked by Pakistani and Chinese defense planners as a benchmark of Indian indigenous strike capability. The clearest signal to watch this week is whether Israeli regime change rhetoric toward Iran moves from political declaration to observable military preparation, and if you want that analysis as it develops, consider subscribing to stay ahead of the next briefing. This brief is based on publicly available open-source information and is for educational and analytical purposes only.